Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Cloud Task Summit for 2023. I'm David Dulany, and I am so honored to be able to join you today. We're going to be talking about a subject that's near and dear to my heart, which is event-led growth, and how we use that at Tenbound to grow the business, and how you could potentially use it at your business to really help with sales. Again, I'm with Tenbound, and we are a research and advisory firm that focuses on go-to-market, pipeline, and revenue. So everything that you need as far as insights and intelligence to help you grow your pipeline and revenue, you can find it at tenbound.com. So we're talking event-led growth. And what does that even mean? How do you leverage it in order to grow at massive sales results at your company this year and really take it to the next level? So basically, at its most fundamental level, event-led growth refers to the strategic use of events such as conferences, trade shows, product launches to drive your business growth. And the goal is to use it as a channel to attract new customers, generate leads, and create brand awareness. So what's the difference between that and what you're already doing today? Well, we're going to go through some of the main components of it and then how you can actually use it. So number one is getting off the growth treadmill and staying motivated over the long haul. Number two is looking at the cadence by David Sachs and how you can actually apply that to your growth business, how event-led growth actually works, and some success stories and some learnings or warnings that we have from using this at Tenbound and working on it with our customers. So let's talk about the growth treadmill. Before we go into event-led growth, how do we usually run our campaigns over the long term? As you can see, sales is all about motivation, especially with SDRs. How do you stay motivated to grow over the long term? And we're running a lot of different activities. We have the SDR outreach campaigns. We're posting content. We've got the AEs doing their own outreach. We're doing a trade show next week. Oh, by the way, there's a marketing campaign that's coming up. And meanwhile, the product team is launching new products. There's a big end of quarter push because we got to make our number. And there's a webinar coming up next week. Can the SDRs help to promote that? And don't forget, we've got to prepare for our QBRs and the SKOs. And by the way, has the SDR team been prospecting lately? There's a lot of energy going into all these different campaigns. There's a lot of people on the hook for different metrics as far as growth and development of the pipeline. But as you can see, we're kind of all rowing in a different direction. And some people are doing great and some people are struggling. Some of the campaigns are really taking off and some not so much. It just lacks an overall cohesion that you could potentially leverage to use to be more streamlined. So that is where event-led growth comes in. It helps you with brand awareness, lead generation, alignment, product alignment, content production, and it focusing and leveraging the existing work that you're already doing to create momentum by focusing on a consistently rolling deadline. And so how it could potentially work is, on the one hand, you have marketing and product working together, and on the other hand, you have sales. So at all times on the calendar, there's a large event each quarter. You have a conference that you're potentially running. Now this can be a virtual conference or an in-person conference, depending on the size of your company and the budget. But there's a big event that happens each quarter. And so throughout the quarter, you're always building up throughout the year to this big event. And that's aligning the resources and the energy of folks to be working toward that big event. And from the business perspective, you're lining up the new product launches with that particular event. And so instead of coming out in drips and drabs and doing promos and product releases based on a schedule that's not necessarily in sync with the sales team, you're actually syncing it up with that conference that you're putting on each quarter. And as you're leading up to the conference, it's kind of snaps the sales team and the SDRs into an overall focus. And so you always know that everyone's sort of on the same page, running in the same direction, talking about the same thing, and keeping the momentum up toward that next conference and that next product release. And you could see how it could potentially work in that you've got a keynote event that you're scheduling each quarter, and the content that's taking place in there not only attracts a new audience and a new set of prospects for your pipeline, but it's also highlighting the work that you've been doing to develop your product and to be able to release new features, new functionality, or whole new products. And so there's an overall timeline that is contributing to the hard work that you're doing in product development, and also the hard work of prospecting that the SDRs and the AEs are doing to drive interest in the actual event. And so you've got the events 4 times per year on the calendar. And then in between those, as you're coming up with the content and the programs for the events, you're also running the usual content marketing that's taking place to support your audience and to support the new product development. So you've got webinars, blog posts, newsletters, your community posts happening, and your SDRs working on top accounts to make them aware of the new content that you're putting out there and the event that's coming up. And especially if you're doing in-person events, it's all about driving interest and attendance and meetings around these events that you're having, so that you can meet customers and prospective customers face to face and get to know them and really create those relationships that is so hard to find in our remote environment that we're having. So this really focuses and targets the entire go-to-market team on a regular cadence versus that usual type of scenario that you see out there where everyone's created their own silos, they've got their own metrics, and they're sort of rowing in all different directions. And there's a lot of energy wasted, and there's a lot of potential momentum wasted because everyone's working on their own thing. And especially when it comes to marketing and sales alignment, which is becoming more and more important, especially as we need greater efficiency in our marketing. Let's make sure that every ounce of energy and focus and passion is being focused toward a direction that can drive the greatest amount of pipeline and revenue. And events are the way to be able to bring everybody together to do that. And then you start over at the beginning. Now, great success stories. As you know, if you think about Apple is really the quintessential event-led marketing organization. So you can see how the entire company is based around new product releases and events that unveil those. And the late, great Steve Jobs was a master salesperson in making sure that the products were amazing and they were presented in a way that got a lot of excitement, and they were always building up toward that latest product release, and all the energy of the company could be put toward making those events amazing and really showcasing the amazing technology that they were developing and getting people excited. At the same time, building a community and building lifelong fans based on the experience that they had at those events. Tesla is another great example, and the great Elon Musk, who comes out and you probably have seen the videos and recognize the importance that they place on event-led growth in releasing their cars. And the famous example of the unbreakable glass of the Tesla Cybertruck, and the hype and the discussion. We're still talking about it years later, of the fact that the glass actually did break in the demo, but he was able to play it off in a way that made it funny and endearing, and a part of the Tesla lore. And you could see how the whole company is so focused on releasing new products and creating new solutions, and then building up to this. It's almost like a release at the event of showcasing the product in a way that people are super excited about, and then a long tail of building that community. Great example is Tenbound. We have embraced event-led growth over the last few years. We started the Tenbound conference that was a real focus on sales development and marketing and sales alignment back in 2017. And we continued to grow that event as a yearly cornerstone event. And then during COVID, because we couldn't run the live event, we started to organize virtual conferences each quarter, and understood how it even though we're a small team, it really helped us to focus on what is the content going to be, how do we create the content that is most beneficial to our audience, and how are we always staying motivated by pushing toward those events through the quarter. And so it's helped us to build brand awareness. We have a consistent set of leads that are coming in based on the work that we do around the events. And it helps us to create content that we can repurpose throughout the year. So we've had a tremendous amount of growth, and it keeps growing as we speak. AirMeet, the host for today's conference, and really the quintessential naming convention for event-led growth. Mark Killens at AirMeet was the first person to use this that I heard of as a way to organize his go-to-market strategy around events. And they've had tremendous growth using AirMeet as their virtual conference event platform, running events and consistently pushing toward that big quarterly or monthly or quarterly event that they're doing in order to keep that motivation and snowball rolling. And CloudTask, right? We're here today because of an event hosted on AirMeet, and with Tenbound as a partner to be able to help bring you this content. Beforehand, the several hundred or thousand people who signed up for this event maybe had never even heard of CloudTask and didn't know about the exciting marketplace opportunity that they've put together. And so brand awareness, has been accentuated by using this approach. They're going to get leads. They're going to get more people into the two-sided marketplace based on running this event. And I wouldn't be surprised if you see another conference next year, both in person, down at their headquarters, or virtual in this way. So just amazing, success stories across the board in really aligning your go-to-market team around the event-led growth strategy. Now, there's definitely some warnings. There's some things that you got to watch out for when you're putting this together. And, one of the best reasons to implement an event-led growth strategy is to remain in a constant state of forward motion. If you talk to any SDRs out there or any AEs, one of the things that's really tough with the job is keeping your motivation and keeping your momentum. It just seems like you're on this growth treadmill where there's all these things happening and you're expected to hit your number all the time, But after 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, however long, it's just after a while, it's very easy to burn out and lose that motivation. And so you want to keep that motivation because we're always working toward the next event. We're always trying to fill it up. We're always um, coming up with the content and the new ideas and the the momentum to fill up the room and get people in there and build that pipeline. But on the flip side, if you start running this a lot, it can become routine as well. And there's two things. One is no boring content is allowed. It cannot become boring. You have to keep your passion for keeping the audience engaged and keeping people excited to learn and grow and develop, based on attending your events. And if it starts to get stale, if it starts to get boring, you're going to plateau, you're going to flatline, and your team is not going to have as much fun in putting it together because it's just becoming rote and repetitious. I'll skip over to point 3 there. You have to have a vision for your event-led growth. You've got to, first of all, have a good idea about your ideal customer profile and the personas who engage and buy your product. And then you have to have a vision for what is going to be your thought leadership in helping those companies and in helping the people that you work with to achieve their goals and their objectives by using your product or service. You've got to have that vision. There's got to be something different about what you're doing to be able to keep that momentum alive and to keep it fresh and interesting. Because if not, if you just become another cookie cutter, corporate business type of media company, basically, then again, you're going to start to lose people, flatline, and this strategy is not going to work. The other thing that's very important, that's critical for event-led growth, is you have to have tight coordination. No silos, no politics, no territory, territorial aspects, especially in a remote environment. The entire go-to-market team has got to work together as a cohesive, almost like a sports team, working together to make sure that you're executing on the event-led growth strategy properly. And there's not people out kind of doing their own thing that doesn't contribute toward the success of the next event and the metrics and guidelines that you put together that you want to see fulfilled. Everyone's got to work on the same page. And at the end of the day, the goal for event-led growth is to build solid pipeline and revenue for your company. And that is the North Star that everyone needs to be working towards. And so the beautiful thing about event-led growth is that it really focuses everyone on the next thing that's coming and the next and the next. And without losing motivation, we can all focus on how do we build as much pipeline and revenue for the company by really adding value to our audience. And so it's very important that there's great communication and great execution when it comes to event-led marketing. So how do you get started if you want to pull it all together? First things first is quarterly planning. You got to look at the whole year and then break it into quarters. The human being has the ability to go really, really hard for about 90 days before the energy starts to dissipate and people start to lose interest on things. And when I say people, it's you and your team, and your go-to-market team. You got about 90 days of attention before it starts to unravel. So be sure that every quarter, by around the end of the quarter, there's that big event plan. And that's what we're going to work for toward the quarter. We have a theme. We have a vision for it. We have a thought leadership piece. We have a product that's going to be released at the same time. And we have a date down for the quarter. Next, shared success metrics. No more silos. We're going to make sure that we have a goal of filling up the room, driving X amount of pipeline, and at a long tail that we have enough sales in the pipeline to be able to hit our number, because that's what we're here for. So we got to make sure that we have those shared metrics, and it's no longer MQLs and SQLs and all these different acronyms. It's pipeline and revenue. Okay, next, we have to have a sort of a general manager of the event-led growth and weekly coordination meetings. We've got to make sure that everybody's on the same page about what we're doing and who's going to be doing what. So the SDRs, the AEs, the marketing folks, PR, the event team, obviously, even the product team, to understand that we're all working in the same direction. We're going to hit that date, that deadline for the event, and everything is going to be smooth and organized from a logistic perspective to be able to really execute on that. Finally, we get to the end. It's a super successful event. We learned some stuff. We made a lot of mistakes, which we always do. We blew some opportunities. What is the feedback loop? What did we learn from the event? And how can we put that into making sure that, first of all, we don't do that again on the stuff that went wrong, and that we use the stuff that went right and the learnings to make the next one even better. And then, after, okay, take a weekend, relax, chill for a while, take a few days, and then, okay, we're back to quarterly planning. We got another event coming up in 3 months, and this is what it's about. This is what we're going to do. Here's how everyone's going to be organized. Let's go ahead and start the process again. And it goes on and on. And the main thing is, it's keeping it fresh, keeping it fun, and keeping it, forward momentum, so that you always have that something to look forward to, that deadline on the calendar that you're working toward, and everyone's on the same page. We can help with this. Tenbound has advisory services. We work with companies to implement their event-led growth strategy, and really finding your go-to-market fit for people that are struggling to get this set up. Or if you ever need any help or advice, or you'd like more information about how to set up event-led growth, just hit me up. I'm happy to jump on a call and talk you through how we use it and how some of the best companies in the world use this particular strategy. With event-led growth, really, it's if you can get this right, it's much more fun, it's much more motivating, and much more successful than that initial growth, treadmill that you get on, that most of us are on most of the time, where there's a lot of different people working on different things, and you're just not leveraging and utilizing your time in the best way. So I'm a big advocate for event-led growth. I would definitely check out the Tenbound website for more information about how to implement it. Big thanks to AirMeet for hosting the event today, and a huge round of applause and just support for CloudTask for putting this together and utilizing event-led growth to make it possible for us to talk today.